Hello, everybody. I am Gray, and you are listening to The Purposes of the Pale. This is the second episode, and with me here is my co host, Curious.
Suck my dick, fuck my ass. Let's do that, fuck it. So, great.
Yes.
You 100% know what we're gonna talk about first. Like it's not
Yeah,
even a
I
question.
know, I
We
know.
all know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the greatest thing to ever exist, ever, Disco Elysium, which is what this podcast is based upon. At least the aesthetic. I feel like what we talk about. I mean, it's not depressing, not alcoholic enough for Disco Elysium.
Not alcoholic yet.
Yet. We're talking about Disco Elysium today, which is the aesthetic base of this whole channel, for a good reason, because we both really like that game. And I recently just replayed it. And holy smokes, it's I wouldn't say even better, just as good on the second time through. I don't know, I guess it is one of the best games I've ever played in my life. No, definitely like the best thing I've ever experienced. That's my general opinion. What about yours? Let's just get our general opinions out of the way.
Me too. I think the first time we ever actually interacted on the internet was through Disco Elysium.
Well, we've interacted before, but it's
we
it was
have.
more
But
like, in the server where like it's more passive and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And Disco Elysium is just great. I haven't ever like come across a piece of media that's as, I guess, I don't know, like as raw in a sense as Disco Elysium is in its like political views as well as its examination of like the characters, like doomerism, I guess.
Yeah, it's a game that's like, I mean, obviously it tackles topics I have
Yeah.
not seen in any other video game.
And also it does that in a very fun way, and that's
does,
another
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
because like there are loads of films like that could be described as Disco Elysium-esque, but they're not really fun. They're like 3 hour long silent, like slow burn films where like the protagonist is like sulking every other second. It's incredibly hard to get through, but Disco Elysium isn't like that. Disco Elysium is just very funny and fun, and also very depressing, and in a fun way, which is a big thing, I think.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously you have the perspective of the film things, because as we can establish further into the podcast, like stuff, you're definitely more of a film buff than me.
Yeah.
But just as a guy who like has played a few video games and stuff, the interactivity definitely helps a lot. Like the fact that you start off without any of your memories and you can like kind of shape your journey from now on, it gives you so much more liberty to go all zany with it. And that's why I feel like the tone of the game. Obviously, you get, from the first fucking 10 minutes, you can realize, oh, you lost ex-wife, you have an ex-wife, and a bunch of stuff happened to you, and that's why you're so sad. But you can kind of not address that throughout the game and only rant about the apocalypse or something. And that kind of freedom, the kind of immersiveness is what I really valued in this game.
And not only
especially
that,
because
but also like the game itself is like very, what do you call it? All inclusive or something, because like it has many dimensions to it that doesn't present itself as like visibly separate dimensions. The political stuff, the history stuff, and then like the writing and the narrative, and like the fucking philosophical, like psychological stuff. Everything is melded into like a singular ball of whatever Disco Elysium is, and I kind of like mentioned it during the first time we recorded that thing, and it's isn't it like private now, thankfully?
Yes, I mean, I can. Yeah, because the audio I had was really bad.
I mean, and also I couldn't talk for shit, but I mean, I still can't talk for shit, but yeah, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about Disco Elysium, and it's just a really good game. I need to play it more, but it's pretty long, if you ask me.
No, it's not. It
is 7 days, like 7 days
hours?
inside of the game. But 15 hours. Like I would
Depends on
say,
how far you want to go with it. Yeah. 20 hours
I would
or
say,
something.
I would say like an 8 hour game is probably a good, like something that's
good length.
Yeah, something that's comfortable for me to replay right now. At least, right now. In like with my school and stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, I played it in the spring break. Fucking fall break. Time is losing me. So I had more time to digest it and stuff. But yeah, I think what you said is very true, and it comes from a fact that if you know about like how Disco Elysium was made. It was originally a tabletop RPG
Yeah.
where the whole point is to build a world. And, obviously, he's also written the book, the main guy behind it. Wait, main guy? Debatable. We'll get into the whole Zaum thing later, maybe. But, like, yeah, Robert Kurvitz, the father of Elysium, he approached this story, and also the other one he set his book in, with the mindset to build a world. The lore is often much more important than a lot of the characters going on. And that kind of all-encompassing approach to writing, I think definitely helped with making this world feel so alive and every aspect of it feeling like not like a let's go political now. No, it's more like the politics is definitely like intertwined with the world, the history, and everything like that. And it just couldn't have come from a different approach. So yeah, I think the choice to base Disco Elysium off a role-playing tabletop. I mean, CRPGs are also basically just Dungeons and Dragons, but like computers. So there's also that. But yeah, I just think it was very wise for them to approach it. I'm saying this like too many times. Approach it in this perspective. Let's talk more about the replay I did. So obviously, the second time through, I already know all the twists, which first of all just gave me the appreciation of how much foreshadowing there is in this fucking game.
Oh yeah.
Like yeah, as I said, in the first 10 seconds, not 10 minutes, 10 seconds might be too much. But in the first 10 minutes, you can already know what's happening with your character. Like you can kind of know about the ex-wife thing if you're a savvy enough player to pick up on these clues so early on. And this is the first thing I noticed. And also, we kind of make fun of the fact that like this game gets so wacky. Like we can talk about being a superstar, we can talk about being an apocalyptic cop where like you're just warning of the gloaming coming every 5 seconds. But as it turns out, a lot of the ramblings in this game actually are like true things. Like I did not pick up on that like the first time through. I was just like, oh okay, funny cop also solving mystery crime, politics, communism. But the second time through, like I really dove into, for example, the church side quest, which is like a later part in the game where you can help a bunch of ravers start a drug trade / club, depends on how evil you want to go with it. And there's this Suna character who's like investigating a kind of different kind of sound frequency in the church, and they discovered there's a 2mm hole in the freaking center of the earth where like Pale kind of emits from. And they basically say like, and eventually the Phasmid, which we meet like this kind of but huge spoilers to Disco Elysium. This is like a lot of spoilers, obviously.
Yeah, you should probably put that in the beginning.
Yes,
probably.
I'm gonna cut that out and I'm gonna repeat it every like 5 minutes. Huge spoilers of this, but yeah, so Phasmid is like basically telling us the Pale was man-made and stuff. But yeah, from the church thing, we discovered that yeah, the Pale was emitting slowly, and slowly it's kind of consuming everything, and the Pale is eventually gonna destroy our world, or at least everything that we know is that is like a part of our world. So like Harry's apocalyptic ramblings, if you really go that way, it makes sense. It's actually gonna happen.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's something that I never expected this world to being. Like I think one of the Let's Players who did like a podcast on Disco, they said something like you can do the most ridiculous shit in the game, but because the world is so fucked, it like contorts to make it all make sense, which is just something I kind of ignored when I played it the first time. But the second time, damn, like a lot of the mystical stuff, if you want to go there, actually has some basing, which is wild. And I think it also benefits that this game is not like completely our world. It's more like fantastical realism or magical realism.
Yeah.
Where there's definitely aspects that like, I mean, the Pale, it's not the most, this is going a bit off the rails, but like, Argo Tulik, the guy who wrote a bunch of the characters from like Everard, Kuno, the Hardy Boys, like
Oh
the
yeah, you
beloved
did tell me
characters.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a core writer, and he kind of described Robert's ability to world build as this kind of taking concepts that we kind of already know and making them something completely novel, and that's what the Pale kind of does. And yeah, I mean, you can obviously like tell what the Pale represents in a way, like the dread and the dread of humanity or something. But like the way he writes about it is so captivating, and I just feel like in that setting they can really incorporate both the realistic themes and also the magical elements. And that's why you should be an apocalypse cop in Disco Elysium. That's objectively the best route, or something.
You also did
I've
like
also-
the moralist route, or is
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. We should talk about the political side quests because they're wild, right? I'm trying to do the fascist one right now, but I realize I have responsibility, so I should stop
Oh
for
yeah.
now. But yeah, I did the communist route the first time, and now the moralist route. But I didn't go through it completely because I failed the red check, and I couldn't bother to reload because I thought the conclusion was like fine enough. But yeah, you also did the communist quest, right?
Not fully. I didn't pursue it to its end. No.
Damn, that's the sad. Because I mean, I really love the communist route.
I mean, yeah, me too. I mean, afterwards, I watched a couple of videos. I didn't do it myself because it takes a long time. Okay, I'm not a completionist like you, so.
Yeah, this is something I cannot understand. Like, I mean, I can't say much myself. I also didn't fully complete the moralist quest. Well, the communist route is incredibly fascinating because obviously, if you know anything about the writers, they're more inclined towards communism.
Yeah.
And in that way, you know how Marxism is all about critiquing itself or
Yeah.
like all things in the world.
That's what I was
right?
gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
ruthless
obviously
criticism of everything that exists.
exactly. So that's why the communist route ends up being the most
A critique
critical
of
of
itself.
communism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not even communism. It's some like weird
It's like,
off
yeah,
branch
it's
of communism.
it's like the modern manifestation of communism, whatever that is.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, and yeah. Okay, I was just thinking it was just kind of weird in a normally weird way. Like it's called inframaterialism in the game, where it's basically just like if the revolutionary spirit manifests like strong enough, then reality can bend towards our will or some shit. And
Okay,
I guess it does
yeah,
make
yeah.
sense. It does make sense in a modern way where like we're so far away from anything that has to do with a feasible socialist or communist revolution that we have to think about it that way, right? We have to think about it. Let's change reality. That's the only way we can do it. It's called like capitalist realism.
Capitalist
I think, right?
realism, exactly. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah. It's
you
about
can
like
imagine the end of the world before you can imagine the end of capitalism.
yeah. And the quest basically involves these two college students who are doing basically like a book club thing where they read a bunch of fucking communist theory.
Yeah.
But it's very unpopular and nobody really cares. But then they find a cop who's a devoted communist, and he says, "Oh no, the true communism has never been tried. We should do it again." But after a while, we kind of get the idea that these people have been disenfranchised by the society, like fucking everybody else, and like we discover like one of the communists. Mother, I think, has been like severely mistreated in like a workplace, and they're basically like kind of clinging onto communism for like a hope, which is like fair. Like everybody in this society, everybody in Revolution Martinez does that, but they just chose communism. But yeah, and they eventually, after convincing them, you gotta really believe in Krasmazov, right? That's the Karl Marx of that universe.
Yeah.
And they eventually build this kind of house of cards, and it was supposed to prove that informaterialism exists. And they build it, and for 1 second, like it seems like everything's gonna work, and then it falls. And it's kind of symbolic of how Disco Elysium, the game, in the real world, got made. But we can get to that later. But yeah, it was a very poignant quest that I definitely want to revisit in the future. But the one I did this time is the moralist quest. And I mean, let me tell you, I did not feel nice going down the centrist route, especially after the game rewarded me the achievement, the world's most laughable centrist, after I said something like really fucking boring 7 times. And yeah, the centrist, the moralist route basically involves you talking to this one guy who's normally not a super major character, Sunday Friend. He is the friend of the
he's
smoker
really
in
frustrating.
the balcony.
Yeah.
Like just talking to him is like basically talking to like a robot who only can say a few like slogans and stuff. Yeah, how they avoid the questions always, and it's just really fucking frustrating. But if you actually agree with them, you can find him in like the fisherman village or something, around that area. He tells you about, I need to, because like the whole inciting incident is that your mind, I think it was empathy, which represents moralism, which is kind of interesting. By the way, endurance resembles fascism, and I forgot what resembled communism.
That was rhetoric, I think.
Rhetoric. There's probably more to dig into that, but I'm not gonna get into it right now. But yeah, we basically need to build a committee of moralists that can like do slow and steady progress in big air quotes. And yeah, he basically finds the Sunday Friend who's like, You should communicate to the giant fucking airship of moralists on the air that's surveilling everything. That sounds very normal, very cool. Everything's good. And it, and he does it like there's this statue of King Philip III, which is like a really bad leader, really bad royalty that eventually the communists overthrew. Yeah, and we basically set up like a fucking antenna from there, and we get to talk to them, and they were like, "Oh, this is so wonderful. Everything's going good. We're continuing Dolores Day's mission. Dolores Day, which is like this is a whole fucking lore thing, basically.
Yeah.
In the disco world, I'm gonna keep it short. I promise. So it's basically in the disco world. There's a few people that are very important. I forgot their name, but like basically they were like super important in human history, and people's philosophies are based off of these
she
people.
was like a she was like a Jesus figure, right?
Nah, she was human. And she
yeah,
just
but
basically
very like godly, like deity-esque.
Yeah. They were like, she was very virtuous and very like and she was basically the one that encouraged. I mean, she was the one who discovered fucking the Insulindian Isolas, which is where they are right now. Yeah, and they did all these like cool policies and stuff about like peace, promoting peace and trade and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and they're basically saying the moralists are furthering their agenda, even though nothing has fucking changed in Martinez for like fucking 50 years. But okay. And yeah, eventually you get the option to like properly convince the fucking moral intern people that something's wrong in Martinez and they have to do something about it. But I did not convince them, so the call broke off. But yeah, it was very interesting to hear their ideology, just about everything. And I can definitely see people being swayed to that. But if you talk to any fucking buddy, on the streets, they're not fascists or moralists, then you can really get a different story of why Martinez is the way it is. I think if you roll the check correctly, you can you convince them of some bad things happening, and then you can be invited onto the fucking airship where you can sit there and do nothing. But I didn't do that, obviously. And also, there's an option where you can like go there and the game just ends there. Like you just like or yeah, it just ends there because you're now like a moral intern committee now. You don't have to do anything. Or Kim tries to be like, dude, we have a murder to solve, let's not do this. Because like it's weird because
really?
Kim
he's like a
we
very
thought that Kim is the moralist. We
Yeah.
thought Kim was a moralist, but after learning about it, it's actually different. Like he was a moralist in his past. I mean, he's obviously not a communist because his parents were like killed in the revolution. It was a very bad time for him. But he says he was a moralist when he was young. But after that, he kind of got disillusioned to the ideology, and he just kind of cares about the material things in front of him. He basically says, I only have faith in the RCN, which he believes is good enough. Which is fine. I mean, he's obviously the best boy in the entire fucking game.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, he could do no wrong, basically. So yeah, Kim Kizuragi is still the superior character of everything. After the second playthrough, he's still the best. I want to do the fascism quest next, but I know that you talk to Measurehead more, which is very... I want to know more about that, but yeah, I'm not going to go through that right now. Hopefully in the future, because I feel like this game is definitely going to stay in my mind for a long time, and I'll probably revisit it every now and then.
Well, I wanna get into it too. One day soon, hopefully. Maybe like during the summer. Not the summer. During the winter break, maybe. I have like loads of other games to play. That's the problem. I've been playing Metal Gear Solid, the first one, right now. And it's a very fun game. I mean, it's aged very well, considering how old it is. It's like. I can't really. It's older than Silent Hill, which is what I want to talk about.
Dude, we're not finished with Disco Elysium yet. Come on, dude. We already went for 24 minutes. That's too. That's not enough. Not enough.
I will talk about it. So, Disco Elysium. Yeah, I do want to like get into it again. I guess I have played it twice because I played like a weird playthrough that I stopped around the part where you get the body down, because I think I died somehow. Oh yeah, I died by opening the fucking the little ledger. That was the
Oh.
funniest death. Yeah, funniest death in the game for
Yeah.
sure. He
Oh,
just like
well, there's also one where you can sit down on the chair
Oh
and you
yeah,
can
yeah,
die.
yeah. I know. But
I think that was my first death in the game. I was fucking like, this is the best game of all time. Like, how can you top this?
oh yeah, and the ledger one was very absurd. You just keep on going. You just open little secret patches inside of the ledger, and then you read a note, and then you're dead.
No,
It
it
was
was
very
the letter
absurd.
from the wife. It was the
Yeah,
letter from the wife that he kept all these
not
years,
wife.
obviously. Not
I don't know if it's
ex-wife,
wife. Yeah, yeah.
ex-wife. Yeah,
Or
yeah,
is
yeah.
it even wife? Were they married?
Yeah, wait, they were not. Yeah, they were not married. They keep like referring it as ex something. Yeah,
Hmm.
they were not married. They were like probably engaged, but they were like lovers for a while.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, that was a whole interesting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk more about that because there are many iconic moments in this game that everybody who has played it can recognize. Like the part where every like your skills start like arguing with each other in the Classier questioning scene, right? Remember that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do, I do.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also other, mercenary tribunal, obviously very
Oh
iconic,
yeah,
very intense
that
part
one
of the
was
game.
incredible. Yeah, God,
And I mean,
please.
yes, yes. And I mean, obviously, people remember the Dolores Day dream sequence.
It was like so. This was just a bed out of nowhere, and then you get an option to sleep, and I just took it because why the hell not? And yeah, I'm so fucking glad I did.
But yeah, like I'm obviously I also love that scene. I love what it represented for Harry's character, and revealing all of that was very satisfying. But after going through it again, it was just it was also a point where like the game mechanics start breaking down because like every fucking skill tries to do something. Suggestion says, oh, you gotta kiss her. Electrochemistry, I mean, I don't have that like super maxed out, so I didn't get anything from them. But like Inland Empire, like all these volition skills, they were like, do something, man, do
Oh
something.
yeah, yeah.
But you can't. Like nothing changes, and like the skills apologize to you. They're like, sorry, man, no. I'm sorry. I should not have suggested that. It was like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
holy shit. That's incredible. Like, the skills, like, crumble before you after this, like, tragedy that you cannot overcome. And then after that, you keep talking to her, right? In every encounter in the game so far, you talk to a guy, and then you exhaust their dialogue tree, and then that's it. But in this one, the game kind of acknowledges that kind of play style. And like you can say like, no, I want to keep questioning you. I want to keep doing these questions. I want to keep asking you these things. I want to keep exhausting my options. And like yeah, it was like a desperate plea through the game mechanics. And I was like, holy shit, oh my god, that's incredible. And just this is the thing I picked up from the first time that really hit me the most. It's just that this dream kind of represents Harry's going back into a state where he remembers his memories. And she kind of says that, okay, you're gonna have this dream like every week, like 3 times or so, and it's just a really fucking painful note to move on from that. But the good thing is, like after you wake up and you talk to Kim about it, it's like he kind of assures you like people have been through that, you'll get through it eventually.
Oh yeah.
Best boy of all time. Like what can I say? Oh my god. Kim is the only one I'll refer to like a 42-year-old with the word boy. Like he's just the boy. He's the best boy. So yeah, that scene was absolutely incredible, so crushing. Like I mean, obviously there are many scenes that still hit really hard the second time. Surprisingly, the opening, it might be the opening or somewhere else later, but like the phrase, "I don't want to be this kind of animal anymore."
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I've actually had that same phrase in a dream before. I've told you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
just
like I mean that thing
yeah.
is also. I remember that in like the fucking Boku no Yasuyasumi video by Action Button. Like he also says like no, it was like something about meanwhile I was shattering animals, and like at the end everybody is an animal. He wants to be this kind of thing where like reverberates between memories. He wants to experience. He doesn't want to be a human anymore. Like that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And it's just I found it really surprising that some of my favorite things on the internet and like one of my favorite pieces of media ever kind of have these very
Yeah.
incidental correlations. Great minds think alike. What can I say? This is the one last thing I want to mention. One last big thing about the game
Is
itself.
there really anything last for Disco Elysium?
No. I mean, I can still talk about it for ages, obviously. I have like screenshotted so many screenshots for this game because I realized, I want to keep
Oh yeah,
things
you've sent me a lot
that pop
too.
out to me. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to fucking discover, man.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so many characters.
Yeah.
so many characters I have not talked to too much in the first playthrough, like Noid or any of the people with Andre's crew. Andre is the guy who looks like fucking Rick from Rick and
Yeah,
Morty.
yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, Noid is basically just Sele. He's a Sele member. He's like, yeah, basically they're like following an alternative to DeLoreanism, who are like all about how music can bring us together, and we all need to have a certain frequency. It's basically like if Sele was into music. It was
Seal.
very interesting.
Sele, what the fuck?
It's not Sele? No, it's Sele. That's
It's
how they say
Seal.
in the show. It's how they
Seal.
say it in the show, bro. Like, come on, you have
No,
to go back
it's
to the.
Seal. They say
They don't
it's,
say
it's
Seal in the show. They don't say it in the show.
Maybe in
They
the
say
like,
Serewa.
okay, it was Seal. I'm so sure it's Seal.
You're so wrong. Like, it's obviously Sele. Like, I think I cannot be wrong on this. I'll fact check this, and since I'm editing the podcast, I can be like I can insert like a section of me like shaming you or something.
Turns out I'm right. It's a German word, so it's Zere. It's Zere, bitch. You bitch.
The thing I wanted to get to before Gray interrupted me was Disco Elysium's design as like a game. I mean, this is not new information at all, but like there's a GameSpot interview they did with Robert Kurvitz, the main lead behind the design and the writing of the game, where he kind of explains certain design aspects like the thought cabinet, where they were basically like, okay, well, RPGs have loot. Well, we're not really a traditional RPG. We don't have loot in that sense. Let's just have information, have thoughts as loot, and make them into a cabinet thing, which is like, and also the art for it is like super reminiscent of those like hell drawings that are like not really like gory, but like they're like disorienting. I think iPatch12 talked about it in his Berserk video, like those like pictures of hell were like really.
Oh yeah,
real horrific
Hieronymus Bach, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thought cabinet is honestly great, and there's so much flexibility to like when you unlock thoughts, how do you unlock thoughts, and how the thoughts like are changed, are manipulated throughout the game. Like there's one thought about this game about this door that you cannot unlock under any circumstance, even if you have like the maximum stats for that like specific thing. The check, you cannot unlock it. So when you eventually fail it, you're like, you unlock the thought called one last door, and it's about like, oh, I need to open one last door or something, and then you internalize it, which takes like an hour, and and then the reward is nothing, and the fucking solution is, well, you gotta realize sometimes there's doors you cannot open, and I was so mad, but like after a while I was like, okay, goddamn game, you got me. But yeah, besides that, he also talked about how he kind of made the text of this game engaging. Like he kind of talked about how, first of all, to get their attention, he took inspiration from Twitter, which is, I guess it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he talked about how in Twitter, it's all these really short bursts of text that are really readable and understandable. And he basically talked about how people talk about how they don't want to read. I don't want to read a book. I'm not a reader, but they read all the time, all day, every day. It's just comes down to the format these texts are delivered. That's why Disco's texts are usually like 1 or 2 lines long, and usually, very rarely longer than like 5 lines. And yeah, that's one thing. And the second thing is the skill system. Obviously, I think it's brilliant that everybody knows it's brilliant that the skills like 24 or something, they talk to you, and they have like different feedback, different perspectives on things, and they can clash with each other in specific circumstances. But one other thing is that these skills can reinforce the information you have just observed in different lenses, in different scales, so you can properly understand them. He talks about how people need like repetition of information to really get them, and in order to not make that I can't speak today. In order to not make that stale, he created 24 different characters to say these words back to you, which is absolutely brilliant. Like it was just like, oh my god. Just so much thought went into how to make this really text-heavy and not really action-y game engaging, and I super admire him for that.
Oh yeah, and also the voice acting is incredible it's the same person, but yeah.
Same person? What?
Sorry, it's the same person did the voice acting for all the 24 skills, but
Yes, the narrator. I guess the narrator. He's absolutely incredible. Like
his voice is like
so.
After finishing the game for weeks, I could hear him in my head.
Yeah, it's really like a Tim Rogers effect. It had a Tim Rogers effect
Oh
on it.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of the words in this game, I mean, the only information I have is that the final cut, they had to voice 1 million words, and in the final cut they basically acted like in the final cut they basically added most of the voice acting, because in the original game they only had like a few characters voiced like Kim and like Hardy, but even Hardy's line like voice actor was changed and shit. So yeah, they had to voice a lot of words. So if I had to assume, uh, they probably had like 1.5 to 2 million words in total in the entire game, of which I read like 50% or something, or at least 40% twice. So like, I kind of subconsciously have taken his style of writing. Well, it's not his style. There's like 5 writers. Obviously, they have a very similar ways of
Yeah, yeah.
expressing it to keep the style consistent. So yeah, I've kind of internalized his style of writing, which makes it really weird when I go to a book. I go to a book and I read the book that he wrote before Disco Elysium. So if you didn't know, Robert Kurvitz, he wrote a
he
book
did. What
back
was it
in
called? Sacred Air or something?
Sacred and Terrible Air. Yeah. I don't know the original Estonian, yeah. But yeah, he wrote a book in Estonian back in like 2013, I think so. He took like 5 years to write. Yeah, and it's a book set in the same universe as Disco Elysium. And reading through that is just like, it's a surreal experience to see the universe I've become so invested in, like, just the whole Elysium world, like the city, Revachol, Martinez, these things reflected in the book format. Like when they talked about like real, which is the currency, I was like, yo, it's real, it's the thing I recognize from the video game. And yeah, it was just really fun to see that. And as I got further and further into the book, I could not stop the feeling that this is just Shivers talking to me right now. This whole book is just Shivers, because the book is in third person, right? And the game is not often in third person because obviously it's interactive and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a few instances like with Esprit de Corps or something. I don't know how to say it in French. The basically the cop skill where you can get more insight into like how your compatriots are thinking. Yeah, that whole thing. And also Shivers, which is more about like how the La Revachulia. No, I can't speak. I can't say French. I'm going to offend so many people. Yeah, basically it's how the city speaks and stuff. Yeah, those are in third person. And yeah, the fucking writing. I think Robert Kurvitz actually wrote all the skill dialogue, so that might be why. But I'm not sure on that. Like the distribution of work is not super clear to me. But yeah, so reading that book just felt like reading Shivers, and that's so awesome. Yeah, that's a surreal feeling I did not expect to get. The book, I mean, I have not gone super far into it, but it's basically about 2 friends investigating 3 of their childhood friends, 3 girls. I think there were sisters. No, there were only sisters. I thought they were twins. There were sisters who went missing, and they're gonna investigate it. So it's also a police investigation. But yeah, I can see that the story like jumps from very different perspectives, and it's kind of like a thing you have to piece out yourself. So it's not very simple in that way. I mean, Jamrock Hobo has a video where he kind of talks about how the book kind of expands on the lore, which I'm interested in learning more about. I didn't watch the whole video because I want to learn about it myself and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing this book because obviously fucking
I want to read
Disco
it.
Elysium 2 times. I gotta read it, man. Yeah, it's a good time for me to get back into reading stuff in general.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading.
But speaking
myself,
of, this is the last thing related to Disco Elysium at all I wanted to talk about, and that is the whole Zaum situation, the whole company layoff situation. I've sent you the People Make Games documentary.
Yeah,
and stuff,
I haven't
but
watched it, but I will.
Yeah, but I don't really want to talk about that because I know you're gonna watch it and stuff. And also, it's not the super. I mean, they have really valuable perspectives in there, but it's not the full perspective or the perspective I want to talk about today. Yeah, basically, if somebody doesn't know, wait, I need to take a sip of a drink.
Okay.
Basically, if somebody doesn't know, Disco Elysium in 2022, I think late 2022, there were like it was announced that Robert Kurvitz, Alexander Rostov, which is the art lead, and Helen Himper, which is another like lead writer, they were fired off from the company Zaum, and yeah, just like without any reason, involuntarily. And that's the original story. And then after a few days, they're like, oh, actually, they were fired for workplace misconduct and stuff like that. And also, Robert Kurvis was like, yeah, actually, they like stole the IP from us. The company, these like businessmen have stolen the Elysium IP from them, and they're gonna sue them for that. And also, they announced that the cultural collective Zaum, so which is different from the company Zaum. Zaum is like a cultural collective formed in Estonia since like 2008. Yeah, by these like Estonian writers. It started off as a blog, but eventually went on to more things. Yeah, and yeah, basically the cultural association got dissolved, and they're gonna sue the people here, and just a bunch of stuff happened. No concrete resolution yet. Like nobody really knows how the lawsuits have went down, and maybe it's gonna be in a limbo for a long time. But what we do know is that the cultural association is gone, and I mean, let me just first say about the whole IP thing. Like, throughout the People Make Games documentary, and also just other things they've said, I'm pretty convinced that the guy behind it, behind the whole scandal, Imar Compass, who kind of bought the company, like, I think the story was he had this is fucking boring financial shit, but he and his wife, they like own different parts of Disco Elysium.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And like and he sold some assets to his wife's company.
And then they sold it back, and then with that money something like that.
Sold it. He sold it to his wife's company for like €1, and then he got like 4.5 million back, which is insane. And so far, I mean, nothing has been concrete, which is just because these like really important trade things are like not on documents at all, which is very fishy for a businessman as like famous as Ilmar Kompas in Estonia. And the whole interview they were like, oh yeah, people say that, but I can assure you guys, nothing happened. Trust me, bro, everything's right. But like, obviously, if one side has come out with such damning allegations that you cannot provide proof, eventually the truth is gonna come out, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be that they actually did the whole thing, and Ilmar is 100% guilty. So I think, Robert is gonna eventually get his IP back, or at least in some sense, or maybe even gain back control of the company.
Hopefully. But
But the thing is, you know, the People Make Games documentary and also other things have kind of revealed there's another side to it. Obviously, there's the worker misconduct, which basically just showed Robert being really dismissive towards his workers and not really showing up later. And like during the final cuts development, they were like, actually, me and Rostov are gonna fuck off to make a new company and do something else about it. And yeah, there were like rumors flying around, but ultimately, it's very clear, like, yes, he did all these things. You know, creative people can be uncompromising that way. Yeah, but firstly, it's mostly because of the unrealistic schedules for the original game's release that like destroyed the core team to the point that they had to leave the project for like 50 months or something. Yeah, it's just about the investors and the managers not doing a good enough job and miscommunication throughout this company, which is like, I think a difference between like they started off as like a really small company, and eventually they kind of ballooned to a size where they couldn't really just like lean over to the other guys like so everything kind of went south from there. But yeah, like a lot of issues that led to that. But you know, I think the blame still mostly lies on the capital owners. What's sad to me is that, I mean, I obviously I hope the ideal situation is Robert gets the IP back, he goes to the company, he goes to the people he's worked with for so long. He's like, guys, I'm sorry, I should have been a better thing, and with the better management that I hired this time because I have better judgment, I am going to not let this happen again. Let's make this go too now, yay! That's obviously the ideal scenario, but I don't know, like, it goes through so many layers, and also obviously Robert's ego, which came into play a lot of times throughout this process. But what's sad to me mostly is just the dissolvement of the cultural collective, because you know these writers from Estonia have built something that the world has seen, which is so rare for any like cultural collective from the Baltics. Like Baltics is already like a really unremarkable region. It's kind of sad to say, but like, yeah, there's not a lot of things there that people even know about. Most people could not like point to where Estonia is on the fucking map.
Oh yeah,
and
I was not aware that was like an actual country before I like talked about Disco Elysium with you. Yeah.
Shame on you, man. So yeah, it's
Well,
like
I wasn't aware Latvia was a country before I knew you, so
double shame on you. That wasn't like a justification. I don't know what you wanted to prove at that point, but okay. So yeah, it's just that these people have really built something larger than themselves with their artistic talent, and they got it out there. But eventually, it kind of all came crashing down. As somebody who's lived in the Baltics for half of his life by this point, it's really sad to see that go. I mean, Latvia recently has been getting like more recognition on the world as like a sports kind of country. Like they won the third place in the hockey global tournament, and they also won some
nice.
place in the basketball tournament, which is nice. You know, people were really
Yeah.
celebrating that, and it fits with Latvia's culture, which is really about like a lot of sports prowess, machismo, that kind of thing. So not really my type of thing, as you can see,
Yeah.
because I'm talking about Disco Elysium on a podcast, and I'm making anime videos. But yeah, so there's not a lot of culture here, and Zaum being a cultural collective from Estonia really meant something to me, at least. You know, these people who are so close to where I live, they could do something like this. But eventually, Martin Luiga, who's one of the founding members, he wrote an article about it. He's basically just like the cultural association now no longer represented the values that they had when they started out. And it's just about how the collective had like no management at all. So very like a bunch of artists, let them do their thing on the blog, bye bye, that kind of thing, which obviously led to friction towards the between these people. And yeah, it's just giant shame in my perspective. It's just a big shame. I think anybody can agree. Like these people really made some amazing things, and I really wish these people could work together. But even if fucking Robert gets back the IP, a lot of people like who I just talked about him. Argus Till, no, I forgot his name already. Argo, yeah, Argo Tulik. Argo Tulik already expresses that he doesn't really want to work with Robert anymore because he had like such a big ego and stuff like that. And also a lot of people in the company were like had pretty bad impressions of Robert, and Robert also seems interested to just like fucking off and doing something else with people in his inner circle, which is not how it's supposed to work. So yeah, I think any large scale project is probably not gonna happen, which is just such a fucking shame because like you know. I guess it really makes I guess it really reinforces the communist quest where like it was lightning in a bottle moment where everything worked, but it was so many unpredictable factors eventually that made it crumble down. And as somebody who, you know, again, half a Baltics man, it makes me pretty sad to see such a significant cultural association go. And look,
But
also
yeah,
a lot of people
I am like very grateful that at least Disco Elysium exists with all with all this in mind.
That's true. Yeah, I also want to cherish it for as much as I can. And also, you know, I also recognize there are people on the original team that are still working at Zoom, so it's not like the evil capitalists are you know, abusing all these creatives and the companies are super evil and stuff. Like there's still people working there who are like passionate about the game and stuff. So yeah, I don't know the future of any of this shit is gonna be. Like I hope something good happens. I hope I mean, I have faith Robert, if he ever gets the IP, he's going to make something good, but just with a completely different team. And again, the fucking saddest thing is that we don't have the collective anymore. We don't have the Estonian cultural collective that made this all happen. And it just fucking makes me really sad. And it makes me kind of want to get more in touch with Latvia's culture. Because, like, I mean...
That's great.
Latvia's contemporary culture, because I mean, fucking, if Estonia could do that, why can't we? You know, we're not that far away. And also, speaking of that, this is kind of an offshoot, but I sent you recently, Gray, a few songs made by my friend.
Oh yeah, I did listen to some of them. Yeah.
What did you think about it, by the way?
Well, yeah, I told you it was it wasn't like I wouldn't listen to it like on a daily basis, but it was pretty fun to listen to, I think. I mean, again, I haven't like really heard stuff similar to it. Maybe it's just like not something that I like, not something that I actively look out for. But yeah, it was fun, and knowing that it's like made by someone like your age, I think.
He's my age.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah, I'm just like kind of glad that there's also these like, I mean, they're not really getting a lot of views, and I also know people who are like have made short movies and like do concerts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these things are like compared to like what's on the global level right now, not very good. But I'm
Yeah.
still glad that these things are happening, right? Like
Oh, yeah,
maybe one day,
absolutely.
maybe a Disco Elysium can happen, but maybe at least a Sacred and Terrible Air, the Latvian version, that
Mm.
might sound cool, right?
Yeah,
So
that
yeah,
does. Yeah.
I really hope I really hope something good happens out of the Baltics region. They're not just fucking sports related in the
Yeah.
future.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
more
me
culture,
too
man, more
from
culture.
India.
Yeah, yeah. India as well. I mean, India is big enough that you can probably find some pretty good people doing shit, but just like under the radar and all of that.
Hopefully, I mean, I haven't found anyone that I would like because Indian culture. I mean, as
Nah, bro,
weird
you
as it
gotta go
is
to the Kerala ghettos, and then you find the experimental hip hop producers. You gotta find them,
hopefully.
man.
I mean, yeah, there is I mean, I have found like a weird hip hop mashup with this stuff here, but I don't really like them, if I'm being honest.
I
And
mean,
also,
yeah,
they're
there's
not
this
they're
stuff
not
that you
really
might
made
not be
by
into.
they're not really made by like actual underdog people. They're made by big guys, and I don't like that because if you're
Okay,
like
well,
really big, you should make something good and not something that
that makes sense.
um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So
So
yeah,
speaking
that's
of
kind of my end piece. That's kind of my end piece. But you can go. You can
speaking
restart
of
your thing.
speaking of sad, Silent Hill 2. I played it. So Silent Hill 2 is a game that I have actually never played it before this particular time because again, I told you like earlier, not earlier, last episode, I mentioned that how I used to watch loads of Let's Players play video games, mainly because I
Yeah.
didn't have a good enough PC until like 6 months ago. If I'm being
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
if I'm being if I'm being honest, I don't know. Um, yeah, Silent Hill 2. I've watched many Let's Players play through the whole game many times, like many versions of the game as well. The original version and then the remastered version. That's how I think I mentioned it. Somewhat mention it in my video on Abyssal Somewhere. I think. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, yeah. About how the remaster kind of made a game worse. and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean, worse, kind of worse. Yeah. So I played it finally a couple of weeks ago, and it really is an incredible game with all things considered. I played the original version. It was emulated, which was a
Should you
bad
say that?
idea.
Should you say that?
No,
mean, like, should we
no.
say
It's right.
Let's say the PC version. Let's
Okay,
say
yeah,
the PC version.
it was a PC version. It was a PC
Okay.
version. It was totally the PC version.
It
Um,
exists, I think. Yes.
It does exist actually, yeah. But
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
it's the PC version is still like really bad because it's I told you before, I think when we were not recording, the arrow keys are like supposed to control the camera, but for some reason it's defaultly mapped to control James's movements as well as the camera, which is an incredible headache to fix, but I did. Yeah, I somehow made it through, and it was an incredible journey. You've not played Silent Hill 2, have you?
I know it's about a dead wife, and I know
I
Pyramid
mean-
Head, but that's kind of it.
Oh yeah, Pyramid Head is there. Okay, yeah, it is about a dead wife, but it's way more than that because there's like literally there are three other characters. I mean, no, yeah, there are three other characters, very interesting characters who are. I wouldn't say as interesting as James is. In fact, I would even say like more interesting. Some of them, and
Okay, but like, okay, how can you sell me on this game besides that it's about a dead wife? Like, what about that dead wife sounds interesting? Because like, I've
It's
sent you
not
the
about
video
the
about like, I've sent you the video about like by Doofus Goob or something, like an animation channel where they're kind of like Silent Hill 2 for people who haven't played it, and they're like, yeah, why is this guy going to a village why is this guy going to a village because he saw a letter written by his dead wife, even though the wife is dead, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just like, what's the point? What's the appeal
Yeah,
of
so
Silent Hill 2?
okay, look. So the first game is more horror gamey than Silent Hill 2. I think Silent Hill 1 is more focused on the cult of Silent Hill that exists. It's more I guess what do you call it? More cliche or generic in that way. It's still a good game, but what Silent Hill 2 does is that instead of focusing on the horror of the, like, if you can kind of consider cults as a sort of monster, right? Like when you put it in a story context, in a narrative context, it's basically like monster, right? So Silent Hill 2 is not about cults. I mean, it kind of is, I guess. I don't know, but
Very definitive answers to the game.
I mean, no. It's there are, like Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill itself has like loads of lore that I really do not know much of, but Silent Hill 2, at its core, is about a man who is deeply he has very deep trauma and like problems with his life, his experiences with his dead wife, his grief, and also there's like a lot of mystery there as to he gets a letter from his dead wife, and he goes on, and that's kind of like why you're supposed to question why James is there, because you obviously know if you have someone who has died and they sent you a letter like three years later after their death, you're not gonna go. But if you do, doesn't that like really say something about you? And he's like that incredibly broken man. He's a very unstable man, and he just ventures on to this random town. And this town itself is like it's a very weird town. It's more than a cult town. It kind of, I don't know. It kind of embodies your trauma, kind of. I think the best way to explain it is that Silent Hill 2 is Silent Hill, like the town, is like Sekai K. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I mean,
yeah. It's Sekai K. That's kind of what it is. And all the monsters are like, I mean, there are monsters. You obviously know that. It's not a spoiler, right? So all the monsters are like, all the horror that happens is exclusively tailored to that character, and that's why it's incredible. Unlike something like Resident Evil, where it's just fucking zombies. It's not like that. Yeah, it's very Sekai K in that it's like a deep. It's a deep examination of the character's psyche that's manifested in the world, and also the writing is incredible. The aesthetics is just fucking mwah, I guess. The aesthetics, especially like the fog and the like the VHS quality to it is I really
think
cannot.
that's just because it's an old game, or is it deliberately?
It is quite deliberate, I think, because it just has like an aesthetic they were trying to go to with like a survival horror. It's very grim and dark and foggy, and everything is very mystical, but in a horrific way. Do you know like the end game of Silent Hill 2?
No, I don't want you to spoil it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah,
I know it's like I think I saw one of those videos where like, top 10 most surprising video game twists of all time.
That's
and
bad.
I mean, I didn't. That was like a long time ago, so I don't remember anything. But I remember the image of like James looking at his mirror or something. So I was like, okay,
that's like
Silent
the
Hill
first
2,
scene, okay?
Yeah, so I guess it's not really a twist. So it's fine.
It's not a twist.
I didn't see the twist.
Okay, you didn't hear the twist, I guess. But it's there's like loads of endings, and one of the endings that I can spoil is like a gag ending, which you can actually get, where it's a dog behind everything.
Those dogs, man.
You
Araki was right in not trusting them. Araki was right in never trusting the dogs.
Oh yeah,
that's why he killed all of them. Yeah, I really like stories where they're like they have personal like kind of hells. Like
Oh yeah, that's
just for them.
exactly it. That's exactly the term.
Yeah,
Like
like
a
I can't
personal
think of any
purgatory.
examples. Yeah, a personal purgatory. I can't think of any examples right now besides like I guess part 4 in JoJo where how Kira
Oh
ended.
yeah.
Like
Oh,
how
have
he
you?
was like
Do you know
tormented.
fuck, what's the name? FNAF. You know FNAF, obviously.
How did you know this was the other example I was going to bring up? Jesus.
Ah.
That's yeah, it's just like William Afton, right? Like his whole
Yeah, yeah,
thing
yeah.
is that like he has a personalized hell and
Oh,
we're
yeah.
playing through it in Ultimate Custom Night.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. Man.
Yeah, and also like there's this character Maria. Do you know about Maria? Maria is
No,
like
I
a very so she's a very vague character who's like you should definitely piece it out yourself. It's like her character. The characters are like very. I mean, okay. First off, it's a pretty old game, and that they could come off as kind of annoying and like cheesy, I guess. But it's it's kind of the part, like it's part of the charm of the old survival horror aesthetic. And also, I played the original version, as I said before, and the original version has voice acting that's like really amateurish, but because it's so amateur, I think Super iPatchwolf talked about this. Because it's very amateur, it feels kind of a little too real almost. There are some voice lines in the game, in like the cutscenes, that are like ingrained in my head, especially one scene with Maria that I'm not gonna spoil.
Do you know that? Do you know that one scene? Do you know that one scene in Shenmue? Years ago, I was Chinese. That was one of my.
Oh yeah.
That's my favorite
Yeah.
example of shit. I mean, Shenmue has always had shit voice acting, even
Oh, yeah.
in Shenmue 3. But yeah, that sounds very interesting. I think I'm definitely gonna play it. You sparked my interest in the game.
Yeah, you
especially
should
the
definitely play
personal
it.
purgatory.
But you should like stick to it, if I'm being honest, because unless you have like a controller, which I'm not sure. I don't know. If you have a controller, then definitely go for like definitely go for emulating it. Legally emulating it. I'm pretty sure you can do that.
I will buy the PS2 copy off of eBay. Yes, and I will buy the PS2 and insert the code into my PS2
law
emulator.
is good. Law is good.
Law is good. Law is good. Yes.
Also, I've been like getting into emulating more, especially like the older versions, which you can talk about because I'm pretty sure it's legal, the older games.
Sense, yeah.
And one thing that I realized is I used to think that because controllers have less buttons than keyboards do, so I used to think you can just play PS2 and like PS3 games on PC because there are more buttons here. So obviously, why not? You can obviously play it because PCs are superior to controllers, right? And then I actually started to emulate, and it's a fucking headache. And I'm probably gonna get a controller one day, hopefully soon, because it's like those analog sticks. What do you do with that? And many things. There are many things that controllers are very necessary for playing, and that's why I think certain games you have to have a controller unless you are really patient, incredibly patient. I'm not. So
the thing is, I also, I mean, I've never had a game console in my life because my parents started paying for games. That's stupid. We talked about this last time, I think. Yeah. So
me neither. Or
so
I shouldn't say that.
So I had to kind of compromise, find ways to play games. And I remember distinctly, I think the first time I ever emulated something was Persona 5, the PS3 version. And I had to get it running, and it was fucking a nightmare. But I was dedicated, and also it was a pandemic, so I had nothing to do besides doing bullshit on my computer. So I emulated it, and it was horrible. Like I died so many times to the first level because I did not know how the controls worked. But eventually I got through the game, and I kind of got used to how emulators worked. So honestly, I mean, I kind of see your point. It's definitely frustrating if you don't have a controller.
Persona 5 is like I'm pretty sure it'd probably be less frustrating because it's a JRPG, right? I mean, most of the time you just walk around, and then the combat is just selecting, right? Whereas
but
I was trying to
also.
I was trying to.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, continue.
You can say.
Okay, I was trying to emulate Shadow of the Colossus. I've actually played Shadow of the Colossus before, but I want to play it again. And yeah, it's just too much of a headache because the you can map the mouse to move the camera, but it's incredibly it's just not fun. It just looks too bad, too shit. So
I mean, it
yeah.
depends, right? I guess I've only it depends. I guess I've only emulated RPGs like the SMT games and stuff. But I don't think it's too bad because I mean those games also have traversal. Yes, they might be simpler than like an action game, but like for example, Shin Megami Tensei 5, which is what I'm playing right now. I'm playing it on the PC version. That doesn't that uses controllers obviously, but it also you can kind of emulate the two analog sticks like with the WASD and the JIKL, that kind of thing. And you can like play it pretty comfortably. I'd say maybe I'm just used to it because like again I wanted to get to that part is like after suffering through Persona 5, I kind of figure out how most emulators work and like I can look up stuff online about how to map them in the most comfortable way. So yeah, for example, okay, I can't remember the last game I kind of emulated, but yeah. But there's one exception to the rule, and that's Wii. Like I try to play Mario Galaxy,
Yeah.
and the
That's
parts
because
I played,
of the Wiimote, right?
yes. I try to play Mario Galaxy, which is an incredible game from what I played. Like that's so fun. It's so fun. But I can't play it because until a certain point you go to a fucking dolphin level where you have to like shake it, like twist it in a certain way, and I just couldn't do it, and I was so mad. Fuck you, Nintendo. that's fine. I heard the new
It's definitely
Mario
fun
game is fun
because
though.
it's Nintendo.
I heard the new Mario
haven't-
game is fun though.
I haven't seen anything of it, but Mario games are usually fun. I have played the original. No.
The
Not
original? The first
no,
one?
No. I mean, I have played that, but I've played Mario 64, Super Mario 64.
Yeah,
is a
I
fun
also
game.
need to play that one. I've only played World, but I didn't finish it because fuck it. Like, I'm not into 2D platformers unless they're like really good, like Celeste. Yeah, but I think we've gotten a bit off trail. We can talk about some more. I mean, if you have more stuff to talk about,
I mean, there was never a trail to begin with.
I was thinking we can go into like more horror media. Now,
Oh yeah, we can.
yeah.
I recently watched Rosemary's Baby. Have you heard of Rosemary's Baby?
Rosemary's Baby,
Which
No,
is a film,
I have not. Heard
not
of
a video game or an anime. It's it's a film by not a good person, Roman Polanski. Have you heard of Roman Polanski? He's like
no,
a big.
I've heard
big,
of the
big
wrestler
director
Roman
guy.
Reigns, head of a table, tribal chief. Okay.
He's like a big guy in the film.
Big guy,
film
big boy.
place. But he's also like a terrible person because I think he's a rapist. So.
Oh shit.
But
It's like every
yeah,
pop punk singer.
unfortunately. So yeah, Rosemary's Baby is like a pretty old film. It's about motherhood, I guess. Maybe it's about a couple who move in together to a weird apartment building, and yeah, it's about their experiences with their neighbors who are these old women, old couple, and they're kind of like cultic, yeah. And it's a very fun film, and also it's like it's a very fun film, as in that
Isn't it a horror film?
it is a horror film. Its horror is very I guess. I think you probably were meant to watch it not knowing it's about cults, but nowadays you kind of know it's about cults because everybody, it's kind of become common knowledge. But still, it holds up very well because it's mainly how how the cult is like slowly starting to seep into the lives of the main characters, and also it's also about motherhood. It's Rosemary's Baby, obviously. Rosemary is the main character. She gets pregnant and has a baby, or like that's having the baby. That's the point of the film. And it's a very fun film. It starts with a little lullaby, which it's a very enchanting lullaby. I think it's a very fun track, and it's so interestingly at the end, after all the big things have happened, at the end. The camera pulls back in like a similar shot to the beginning. It comes full circle, and it plays that track again, and yeah, my mind was blown when they did that. It's not because it was like some big thematic conclusion or something like that. It was, but it just felt so much like. I heard that track in the beginning and didn't really think too much of it. It was a pretty fun little thing, but by the end, with all the things that happened in the film, that track is just like, oh man, I really love it.
I think
It's
the word
very-
you're looking for is recontextualized.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it didn't really like give me any new information. Just made me feel weirder than yeah.
Yeah, you were
Um,
given new context as in recontextualized.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But what
And,
about the movie itself, the crux of the movie? How would you describe the horror there?
It's okay, horror movie. It's you have to like really understand that this is an older movie. And okay, here's the thing about horror. What is horror? Like, there are jump scares, which we can talk about in the next film that we're going to discuss, which we both watched together. And then there's horror that is more subtle and I guess vague. And some people just you have to really watch it, really be in the mindset to watch it in order to get it. And I think Rosemary's Baby is one of those films just because it's much more subtle and vague in its horror. It's you have to. It's first off, it's about cults, and as I told earlier, it's about how the cults seep into the lives of the main characters. That's the main. Horrific thing that's happening. And also what they're actually planning to do with the main character. And it's her slowly figuring everything out. And that's the main. That's the main attractive thing about it as a horror film. And again, you have to really you have to know your tastes to really enjoy it. And I personally like cult horror a lot. I've watched Midsommar, which is an incredible film. Have you watched? You've probably heard of it, right?
Yeah, I've heard of it. It's a newer one, I think.
Yeah,
right?
it's a newer one. First off, the modern ethos is individualism, right? And we have become atomized. And cults, the appeal of cults is that they provide a space for us, like an inclusive space with other human beings, a collective. That's the appeal of cults. And cult horror would be exactly that, but, the horrific aspect of it, we're all people who are looking for a place with other people to belong to, right? And cults are something that does give us that, but in a really negative sense, in a really horrific sense. And cult horror capitalizes on that feeling. These films, Rosemary's Baby, it's less about the cult itself. It's more about it's more about the aspect of becoming a mother, and like there's a thing growing inside of you, and the thing
Okay.
it's not exactly what you think it is. Is it the fucking the sister? No,
The sister?
Does it have the sister fucking
No.
or like the horse fucking?
Let's talk about this other one first, which also includes a lot of fucking, but just a really bad kind. It's Saya no Uta, or Song of Saya. Yeah, it's a visual
Ooh,
novel written
Japanese.
by. It is Japanese. It is a visual novel. Came out in 2003 or 4. Pretty early game. And it's one of the earliest works by Genro Buchi, who wrote Psycho Pass, Madoka Magica, all those good stuff that we know for him today. Now he doesn't do much anymore. Like he wrote a movie that everybody hated. That's kind of it. And he also wrote like
Yeah.
3 seasons of a Taiwanese a puppet show, I think. But before
Oh.
that, in 2011, he was on fire. He wrote 3 of like some of the best things I've seen. You know, Madoka Magica, Psychopaths, and Fate
Oh,
Zero. Yeah, all incredible in their own ways. But before that, he was very sad and very nihilistic and very depressed. So he wrote Sayanota, which is a really depraved piece of art that I don't really have a lot of like. It's hard to form an opinion on it because of how like everything is so visceral. So basically, the game starts off with the protagonist waking up and seeing that everything around him is like a mushy, gory mess. Like everything is intestines, the walls are everything like, and every person is like this blob of horrific amalgamations. And he can't eat any food because food looks like guts and like gore to him. Everything looks like gore to him. And yeah, it just begins that way. But every other person sees everything normally. Obviously, it's just him who's fucked up in the head so much. And yeah, it's just about him living that life after like a traffic accident. That's what he got. That's where he got this like kind of thing. But then we kind of the story starts there, and you get an introduction to that. Like you get like the horrific noises, you get the horrific perspectives, and you get a flip perspective of like people being concerned about him. And then when he goes back to his house and sees Saya, which is this being that is the only thing that looks human to him in this world. She's like a fucking 12-year-old girl looking. So it makes it very sus when he starts fucking her.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not good. But I don't even know what to say. I think it's just he was trying to convey. I don't think the guy was even like implied to be into that kind of thing, like a a criminal, a really fucked up person. It's just that after living this fucked up world for so long, like anything that looks human, who is also of the opposite sex, you're probably gonna, think these things, because like. Okay. This is a very hypothetical perspective that nobody in the world is gonna experience. So I can say these hypotheticals of mine and not get in trouble, hopefully. But yeah, this game is basically just about how he holds on to his like last bit of sanity with this girl who tries to make stuff right, but eventually after Saya, the girl, she seems like an innocent person. She's an innocent girl who's really kind to Fumi. Shit, I don't remember the guy's name, the protagonist's name. But yeah, they're really depending on each other because also to Saya, to everybody else, she probably looks not human. She looks like something else. It's horrifying. And yeah. And so she also finds solace in this relationship with Fuminori. Yes, that's the name. Fuminori, this guy, and they have this kind of really tight relationship between them because obviously everybody else sees them as insane people or like monsters. But then eventually the story moves on and it goes into a more of a Lovecraftian horror perspective. We get the what Sai actually is and stuff like that. And that's where the game kind of loses me because Fuminori. No, I don't want to spoil it because it's a very short game and the plot is it's not the best. Like
how long
it's
is
not
it?
like it's about like 4 hours if you really want to push it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's a pretty unique for like.
A visual novel.
Yeah,
definitely.
a visual novel. Yeah.
Yeah, but despite its short length, it's definitely able to make an impression just from how visceral the content is, from how horrific some of the stuff happens. That is, this is one thing that like kind of happens towards like the climax of the middle part. I don't know if I should spoil it. Are you interested in playing this game at all?
I wouldn't say so.
You wouldn't
It's
say
a-
so?
It's a visual novel, right? Novel, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't think
Well,
so.
then I can talk about it in more depth, which is good.
I mean,
news
I
for me.
don't really care about spoilers anyways, so
Yeah.
even if I play it,
It's
so
also
fine.
it's also a game with a lot of really bad sexual content.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
so yeah.
I mean,
it's
I'm fine with that, but yeah.
visual novels. Unfortunately, they're also made for a lot of sex appeal, and I'm
yeah.
pretty sure there's an audience for. I'm pretty sure there's a crowd of people who only bought this game because they want to see.
Oh yeah, are
Saya
you aware of
get-
the fucking video? This fucking visual novel called Euphoria.
I am obviously I am. Yeah, it's more about like that's a different kind of fetish, more sadistic. But this one is less than that, and like I don't
Okay.
like so like if it's like a lolly thing, I can just skip. It's like I don't like
Yeah.
this. Fuck this. But the thing is, he's not really doing it with a human. He's doing it with a horrific Lovecraftian monster who's gulping on his dick, and it's horrifying to think of something like that. It's like, oh no, why are you putting this in my head? So they explain their relationship. Everything's going fine. They're trying to be more normal by painting the rooms and to not see the intestines. And Sai's trying to cook him something, but obviously nothing tastes good at all. But they're trying to like make it work somehow. But eventually, people get worried. Like his best friends are like, dude, what's happening? And since he can't even talk to them. The protagonist cannot even talk to his friends because they all like it's incomprehensible. He cannot understand them. So he tries to be like distance themselves. Like, no, fuck you. You're all bad people. Go away, kind of thing. And he succeeds, but people obviously are worried. So one girl goes into his house, and like this game's writing is really good at making you feel every sensation, even though it's a visual novel. And even though, I mean, the sound effects are there and sound effects are scary, but obviously it's not as scary as like just seeing it moving and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's very effective in conveying its mood and conveying its visceral horror. So it describes like the stench, like the horrific stench, like the fucking. In true Lovecraftian fashion, we never actually see Saya. We never actually see what she actually is. But yeah, basically the girl gets killed. Blah, she dies, no. And then Fuminori comes home because he was outside for some reason, I don't remember. And then he sees Saya munching on those things that look like green goop. It's like, Saya, what are you doing? It's like, she kind of like, she feels real bad. It's like, you know, I might have killed somebody. She tries to hide it, but then he picks up the goop and then he eats it. I think that's very interesting about visual novels because like visual novels, the mainstream ones are like the ones that are like you date girls, you fuck them, that's the kind of thing. But then another part of visual novels are so much more interesting is that these auteurs that cannot be accepted in any other industry because they're not like like the film execs or the anime execs are like, dude, you cannot write that. You cannot write that. Or else we're gonna get like zero. We cannot put this on TV, man. And these people conglomerate to the visual novel industry and they start making obscure bullshit that like some people resonate to. Gen Robuchi started from there. He kind of had to soften it up to be on TV, but he obviously had the capacity to go full insane. And also Kinoko Nasu from the Fate franchise, his stories were like, imagine like Disco Elysium, but like you cannot, the encyclopedia skill is just on the whole time. That's Kinoko Nasu. Yeah, he writes in such an like his world is so stupidly detailed. Like obviously it's not going to work in any other medium besides a visual novel because nowhere is going to allow him to go on about like magic systems for 20 minutes. Yeah, and there's also other authors, the one who wrote Subarashiki Hibi, the sister
thing,
fucking yeah. Yeah, I mean it kind of depends because like some games are about like some visual novels feature sexual content because they have to for like market reasons, like Fate Stay Night. They kind of cut it off in the later editions because they were not intended in the first place. But then there's Subahibi and Sayanuta, where the sexuality definitely plays a part of the game. Like in Subahibi, this is not really a spoiler, I guess. Kind of a spoiler, but it's a very infamous scene where a guy jacks off into a desk. And it was very important for the scene. Very important to build up this character. But yeah, like Skadi, who made Subarashi Hibi, he also could have... I don't imagine him working in any other industry because he's just like... His ideas are so wild. And there's a lot of philosophy, actually, in his stuff that I feel like is not very accessible. Like he talks about Ludwig Wittgenstein, which I think you might know. Like one of the more famous philosophers about like how words form our world and stuff like that. Yeah, like the ideas that he explores are very interesting, except they don't really make into a fucking coherent narrative. And the only way he can get away with it is in the visual novel, where you're kind of not really engaging in it in the same way as a TV show, where you expect a coherent narrative, where everything's a payoff in the end. So yeah, I find visual novels fascinating for this one reason, that they can gather such stupid, not such weird auteurs to create art that you can never see in other places. Me too. But the sad thing is like that kind of thing is getting less and less available. Like I don't see a lot of new talents flooding in the visual novel industry these days because they kind of have to pander to the mainstream audience, which is the I want to fuck anime girls, let me fuck anime girls in every game kind of gamers, which is sad.
We watched the original Halloween from the 1970, like late 1970s, I think, 1979.
Yes.
Yeah, we watched it together. It's like the first thing we watched together. It's pretty, So, what do you think about Halloween? How much do you give it on Letterboxd? I haven't checked.
Letterboxd. Shit, I have not forgot.
Or I mean, I could check it myself. Oh, you give it a 4 out of 5.
4-star.
Why?
Yes, I gave it 4 stars.
Why?
Because I did enjoy it quite a bit. I thought there are a lot of things that were surprising, and obviously as somebody who's not that much into movies, a lot of the things that might be considered like tropes or something. I mean, Halloween is a trendsetter,
Oh, yeah.
so maybe he invented those tropes or something. But like some things I thought were very well done in the movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed my experience, despite it not seeming as grandiose as like some other horror movies nowadays. And yeah, that's the first thing I kind of I didn't expect from a movie, that like I did not know that such a classic was actually like a more indie movie kind of thing. Did you know that before?
Yeah, I mean, I did because like I think I think the most or like the four of the four horsemen of the Slayer thing. Fuck, I can't talk.
Slasher
Slasher,
movies.
not the Slayer. The four horsemen of the slasher movie genre are all pretty indie films, I think. Yeah, and Halloween, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I didn't enjoy it as much as you did. I think maybe, I'm not sure, mainly because I have watched more slasher films than you have. I mean, I know it's, yeah, as you said, it's a trendsetter, but you know, why did you set those trends?
You don't like those?
Not
trends?
really. Especially, I think I told you about the film Funny Games by
Yes.
Haneke, Michael Haneke. It's a film that makes fun of the trends that was set by Halloween. Not exactly by Halloween. Halloween isn't exactly the trendsetter. It's one of them. But yeah, it's I did like it a lot. I think it's camera work, pretty classic. I think John Carpenter is a very good director. I think, especially with his other films, They Live and The Thing. Obviously, you can never not talk about The Thing. And also They Live. They
Yeah.
Live is a great film. I think I told you before. Zizek brings it up in his documentary. What was it called? A guide to
Cinema, philosophy,
no
something?
ideology
Yeah,
for the perverts guide to ideology. That's the one. It was it was a great documentary. He talks about how They Live is like one of the biggest things to ever happen to leftist cinema ever. John Carpenter is a good director, I think, and Halloween is a good film. I think it does build its horror pretty well, but then again, there's the one thing I think you can probably relate to, is that there's a lot of red herrings. I think I would say a little bit too much, just a little bit too much, I think, which it kind of,
That's interesting.
yeah, it kind of got a little I guess predictable by the end, where you could kind of tell where something is a red herring and something isn't, where Michael is and where he isn't. So where they're trying to set up a little murder scene, but Michael isn't there. Those times were kind of obvious. And then there was also the fact that I guess the writing was very generic for the time, I think. If you the main characters are all very generic people, except for me. Michael is like, I mean, he probably isn't generic. He's like the what do you call it? Yeah, the pure evil force of nature kind of dude. But other than that, like the positive sides, there are a lot to talk about with the positives, I think. For one thing, the camera work, pretty classic, pretty well done. Another thing, it is an indie film, and they made a lot with what they were given. You can kind of feel the vibe, feel the aesthetic of the indie coming in, but I think I think it does good, honestly. And then there was the lighting and all the set and the stuff like that, which I really found really fun to watch. Like Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes.
like the silver lighting with all the lights turned off and the only light coming from outside, like artificial lighting, it was pretty atmospheric, I think. And I think there's also John Carpenter being the person he is. There's like I guess okay, I don't want to say maybe like a classist analysis of it.
Okay, well, here we go.
No. I'm not gonna provide the classist analysis. I know there is one because just how how like at the end of the film they just like just show like the four houses, the main four houses, and then it cuts to like the credits. I know there is something out there because John Carpenter is a guy like that. And the thing
Okay.
obviously is another film that has a lot to do with politics and the Cold War and stuff. But yeah, this film was a pretty good film, I think. I wouldn't give it like a 4. I didn't give it a 4. I gave it a 3.5. It was almost a 4, but it was a very good film, I think. What do you think about it as someone who is not as into film as I am?
The point you brought up about the red herrings, I do agree with that. Like, I feel like by the end, it was kind of the first time when it happened, like when the suspense was building and like it's established Michael can be anywhere, and like I think it was the main character Jamie Lee Curtis, like she was walking and she was feeling this unease and she bumps into somebody and like we don't see their face. I was like, holy shit. The first time it happened, it really made me jump out of my seat. Yeah, made me jump out of my seat for a bit, and I think that's really well done. And then another time it happened with the doctor guy, and that was also pretty good. But yeah, by the end, I was kind of tired of like just being like, oh my god, what the fuck, right? Just kill these fuckers already. Like I really don't care. And also, I do agree that the characters are really generic. Like I don't really like any of them. But what I do appreciate about the movie is just now this also might be a baby's first horror movie kind of thing because I really haven't watched many horror movies I remember, and even then like I could predict some tropes like okay I was like okay they're gonna see Michael like down like falling down and then we cut to another shot and then we cut to the same shot but he disappears now or something. That's something I also predicted I think, but I really did like how the tension was built up with every like kill. And every kill felt significant in a way because you're waiting the whole movie to see that these people fucking die because you know that's the point. But this movie was relatively, I think, conservative with how it killed compared to like Saw, where they
I think it has something to do with like the budget they were allowed to, and also the the blood and stuff. Yeah.
Definitely. But I still really liked how when the first kill happened, it was in a car, and then how it. I think how it kind of became iconic. I could see why it became iconic, right? I could see why Michael like choking the girl from the backseat of her car became iconic. I can see how the guy like
the very first scene itself was pretty iconic, right? The Michael killing his sister. Is it his sister? I think
Yes, and I just thought I maybe looked at it at the point I looked at it in the angle that it's already a classic, so I was looking at how did it become a classic. And I really think the kill, like kind of how every kill was executed, probably could have been like classics. The first like car murder, and then there's also the guy who like got stuck on the fucking closet or something. Yeah, and then there's Michael being this goofy ass like ghost guy, like covering the like blanket. I was like, well, I can see why these things became iconic, and I do see like you can see it as goofy. Like I did not expect it to be like super horrifying, but just the fun of seeing okay how they're gonna do it this time, what is he gonna do. Even though obviously Michael Myers is not like a fucking JoJo villain, he doesn't have the most interesting abilities, but I still found that fun. And after I see more movies and maybe I rewatch it or like I just think about it more, it will drop down in scores most likely. But for like a first slasher movie, I thought it was quite fun.
I mean, again, I'm not like the biggest fan of slasher films myself. I don't think I enjoy them as much as I do something like I don't know body horror or like other type of ghost horror stuff. But it's still a pretty good film, I think. And also like the soundtrack, of course. Although it's like it's a pretty short soundtracks. There's not much variety there, but it's still very iconic. And it's really used well, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was quite an iconic song.
And then there's also I think what do you say, like creativity is born out of what is it? Creativity is born out of limitations. I think I can see that here.
Yes.
Definitely.
I think it's probably healthier to approach classics in that way, where you're not evaluating it from the current the modern standards, but like the circumstances and the standards they had back then. Because I know a lot of people like who I've talked to a few guys about this movie who have seen it. It was like, this is boring. This is boring. I was like, it came out in 1978, and dude, like, come on, give it some slack. So I think I was I wouldn't say maybe somebody really like knows this movie in and out, but like I think I optimized my time with this movie to have like as much fun with it as I could, which is I think a good thing.
Oh yeah, me too. Although like I did give, I mean 3.5. It's pretty close, I think. Yeah, it's a fun film, I think. Are you like more into slashers after watching this film?
Maybe. I think I want to watch Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah,
because,
definitely.
The villain in there is so iconic
Yeah,
and stuff. But
and also like
I probably will watch
dancing
the Four
around
Horsemen.
with the chainsaw, which is a pretty iconic scene.
Yeah, I will. But I don't know. Maybe once every blue moon, like every 3 years, when I actually do watch a movie, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
But also, I think watching together made it a lot more fun.
Definitely.
Like we could like pause and bitch about shit. Yeah, it was fun. We watched one episode of an anime, but it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like I should like.
Should we say that or should we reveal it?
I don't know. I was gonna like say if we're gonna talk about it, and I'm gonna talk about how I said that anime was that anime was anime. I said that while we were like watching, because it had very the little snarky little animation changes that's supposed to be funny, like littered throughout the episode, but I thought like I hated that. But I do hate it, not because it's anime, but because it's bad, okay? Because I've been watching Kill la Kill, and it also has a lot of those kind of little snarky, like the little, characters become chibi and stuff. But it's actually fun and funny in Kill la Kill. It's good, and in that one, it's not really well integrated into what they're going for, I think. So yeah, I don't hate anime. I just hate bad anime. Okay.
I'm glad you acknowledged that. Welcome to the dark side, friend. But yeah, I definitely agree. Like, there's a lot of anime. I think FMA was the one that did it the worst. Not the worst. Like, I think the author can be funny, but like the whole thing about look at the change in aesthetics. Now Al is just a little metal blob guy with a little hair. Be funny now. It's like it's not very effective. While as in Kill la Kill, or even like Gurren Lagann, but even that has like less like chibi like animations. The way Imaishi directs was so expressive that you could kind of overlook that and make it funnier. I think that's it for the second episode of The Pale. I've been Curious,
and I've been Gray,
and we'll see you all next time.